You talk about obviously the product mix being expanded. There's a lot of things that you're currently doing. You keep adding to that. One of those things is about the fellowship of Institute. So we have the title. I'm proud to be a fellow and have been for a little while now. And
we're very lucky to have.
Yeah, we're absolutely pleased to be accepted. Talk to us a little bit about what that means, and and the reason behind the fellowship FIEP, and where did the idea come from?
Well, it was always a standing item in our articles. So those areas, those membership levels have always been there from the beginning. But right at the beginning, the majority of fellows were honorary fellows. There were people who had set up the institute, and over the years, we'd built and built and built. And I think there's, forgive me if the numbers, if it's not quite right, I'll be right in the next 2 weeks, about 160 fellows worldwide. The majority of them in the UK, but worldwide. And I'm a very practical person. So I decided with the team that were there. I mean, 4 years ago, I think, there was just myself, Helen and Heather. There were three of us. And Helen and Heather were working part-time. Yeah. I think I was probably working part-time at some point. So it's quite amazing how we've moved on. But I decided then that there just weren't enough people to go around. There weren't enough fingers and toes and arms and legs. And, we needed a way of getting the message out there really effectively, but also giving back to individuals who are great advocates of our institute. And so we decided to build a campaign around increasing our fellowship numbers, actively going out and speaking to people who we felt were the right people to help and support us on this mission. And we did that, and the fellowship has grown exponentially. But I think also the offer to that fellowship has grown. So in a very practical term, they are often leaders, sometimes senior leaders, but also sometimes practitioners who have led in a commodity that don't want to move into what we traditionally say senior leadership role. And they get to operate in a network within a network. And I think the majority of people that are on that fellowship journey find that really, really useful. They have immediate access to others that are in similar positions and having the similar challenges and having all those kind of other problems that everyone faces. But they can have a conversation with an IEP hat on rather than, and they can also have commercial conversations with an IEP hat on. Sometimes it breaks the ice and it's quite a useful commodity. So they have been, the last thing I'll say on that is that, they've been really, really, really helpful, all of them, to a man and woman in terms of how we've been able to get the message of the IEP out there and to build our membership, our credibility and our capacity for change.
Okay. So on a personal level, what sort of levels of membership are there? There's obviously the fellowship, but there are others. And what does it take to become a fellow if somebody's been working in the sector and so forth? How do they look at that in terms of professional growth for themselves?
Yeah. So those people who are joining the sector start at associate level, and then after a year's worth of service, taking into consideration that they've qualified to a particular level within IEP's learning, they can be upgraded to member. It's 3 years if you haven't done the IEP learning to become a member. And then we have a new membership level called Member Ambassador. So those people who are qualifying to our level 3 learning will become member ambassadors. And also we've reached out to our partners to say, do you have people within your organization? Member ambassador is a bit like the fellowship thing. We're going to be doing a lot more activity through those individuals. And then of course, fellowship. Fellowship requires, so I've explained associate member and member ambassador. Fellowship requires a significant number of years in the sector. It requires for that to be proven through a CV application. And then if that is passed through the fellowship committee, then in essence, that individual is invited to a professional discussion. And I don't know about you, Saf, but I never did it that way. I was through a committee with a board and everything, and it really wasn't particularly a professional discussion. It was great, but it was a lot of paper application. And we decided to make this move a few years ago because we wanted this to be a real discussion, a bit like this, to really get to the bottom of people's intent and their understanding. And I think that the majority of people that go through that process, which is hugely robust, by the way, are taking an opportunity also to probably have the very first time in a very long time to reflect on their careers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you know, when you get to your level, Saf, and everything that you've done, I expect it would feel quite strange to often sit there in front of the TV or something, or reflect. You know, it's not what people do. So actually having an hour to sit down with your peers and actually get under the skin of what you've done is immense. It's really cathartic. And actually from the other side of the table, doing those assessments, those professional discussions, it's really cathartic for the assessors, because they hear the backstory that people have often that they would never have imagined. It's phenomenal.
Canny Conversation Podcast Series 5 by Safaraz Ali.